JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding on this Friday afternoon, August 22nd. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at, and go from there. And like it has been the last couple days, this market rant has been brought to you by Cracker Barrel. Just joking, sarcasm aside. Anyway, market's soaring. The S&P is up at 1.5% or so into the close. We've got about 28 minutes left. If it stays here, I think it's 644.95 or so is the all-time high. So it's right at all-time highs. Stays here, it'll be another all-time high close. Remarkable stuff, all in the face of every possible economic headwind, tariffs, World War III, right? I mean, who remembers the strikes on Iran? That was going to be the start of this geopolitical escalation that was just going to destroy the oil markets. Inflation's going to soar all in the midst of tariffs. All these this back and forth with Mexico and I mean, you can go. The list can go on and on of all these potential market headwinds, and the market has done what it has always done: climbs the proverbial wall of worry, and here we are, all-time highs. I mean, this morning Powell comes on, and I didn't realize the remarks coming. I guess I had a little lag in my stream, and uh, pretty much it was like the best case scenario that he came out with. If he just his normal talk about his keeping keeping things, watching the data, and making a decision, see how things go into September, that would have probably, I mean, markets maybe they stayed flat, but if he was like hawkish, a little spin around the economic data that has come out, the jobless report that kind of surprised markets, and kind of mentioned that and say, hey, well, we probably don't want to be uh, cutting rates right now because then that might, inflation might go up and we'll have it will cause us, the the much talked about stagflation situation, right? I think that rhymes. Anyway, so I mean, he did the reverse, and it's pretty shocking stuff, right? To come out and say, "Yep, the jobs market is weak, so we're worried about the jobs market," but we have a conundrum, right? The jobs market, not only is the amount of folks looking for jobs declining, but so are the available jobs. So it's a lose-lose scenario, and it might warrant the Fed to cut rates, despite the possibility that inflation is going to continue to head higher. So I mean, I've said this for a while, especially over the last 6 months or even 8 months, that the fact that the Fed has kind of slowed down on cutting rates or paused it, it gives them flexibility. Back in the financial crisis, the rate was two to two and a quarter, somewhere in there. We're at 4.5. So even if they do a quarter rate cut for the next 7 meetings, we're still not even there. 8 meetings, right? Well, 9 meetings. So, it kind of puts things in perspective and context that, hey, there's flexibility. The worst thing to happen is when you have no flexibility, right? We saw that in 2008. They had to come out with some financial shenanigans, Operation Twist, all these different, buying assets to inflate the economy and provide liquidity and things like that. So, I mean, the Fed's in a good spot. And so the good thing here is it's almost like Fed Chair Powell just talked the markets into rates going down, right? And if he does that, then maybe September they still don't have to cut rates. He can just talk the market down. So now you see the knee-jerk reaction, and a lot of names going up are financial names that would have impacts of lower rates. I mean, take a look at Root today, or Open. Why do I call it Root? But Open soaring today was probably going to rally anyway, but you have folks that are looking at some of these names that, hey, maybe lower rates are going to, you see Rocket soaring today, and then some of the financials, the Affirms, the Upstarts, um, and then some of the other names I'll talk about in a second. So we'll see how this weekend plays out. I mean, you're still going to have these folks who are going to put the doom and gloom and fear that if the Fed cuts rates in the midst of rising inflation, it's going to cause runaway inflation, right? Because technically, right, so if inflation is up and you cut rates, that's going to provide more, more ability to keep the economy hot or even hotter. When people are spending money, prices, if there's demand, prices tend to go up more, right? On the reverse side, and back in 2022, when he was at Jackson Hole and they were in the midst of this trying to get the inflation under control, he said, inflation is up. We have to raise rates. It's gonna hurt, right? Consumers might be hurt. Um, so here it is. It's funny. It's like the reverse now. Unfortunately, with the tariffs, it's like self-inflicted hurt, right? But we'll see how this all plays out and stuff. But best case scenario, and once he posted, I started getting spec lotto calls because I'm like, this is probably one of those situations that sticks. But again, you're gonna have the doom and gloomers over the weekend saying, but bad spot, it's going to cause runaway inflation and to the point where the Fed's not gonna be able to react. But you know what? If they do, then the Fed just raises rates again. You hate to see them do that, right? Because then it's like, oh, the Fed doesn't have any credibility. But I mean, did they have any credibility when Janet Yellen said the inflation was going to be transitory, right? They lost all credibility then. So why not see what happens? So with markets at all-time highs, you can still have the bubble talk and all that stuff, but hey, path of least resistance right now looks to the upside. So maybe we keep churning into mid-September into the next Fed meeting. So that's a possibility here. All right, so that's overall markets. Yeah, I mean, surprised me, shocked me this morning. But again, I'm open to both sides. I mean, if he came out with any kind of hawkish spin, the market's going to go into 631 on the spot. And to me, it's almost like there's so many folks who like they hate this rally, right? They hate tariffs, they hate the current administration, they hate, I hate to do political stuff, but they hate Trump. Like I'm I try to keep politics out of it, right? I'm trading the market. It's very if you're biased towards administrations and policies and stuff, you're probably going to get caught in bad trades because your bias is going to keep you out of it, right? Uh, so I there's things I like that he does, and there's things I hate. And the tariff situation is like I don't know how you there hasn't been like you would think there would have been planning and rolled out better, but this is what it is, right? So you got to trade it. You got to figure out the ramifications and the implications. And if you were listening to all the folks in April, you would think that we'd be substantially lower than we are now. Well, probably even lower than April 7th lows, right? So, uh, just anyway. So keeping an open mind, some of these names in small caps today soaring. So that's a good sign that yields are lower, the dollar's weaker. So hopefully maybe that's the next leg, and biotechs can get going, and we can have a fun another month or so. All right, so that's that. Take a look at the small caps too, up nearly 4% today. Just it's like it was waiting for good news, and then finally got the good news off the races. Now, quick, just individual names. First on Zoom, right? So I mean, if I forget, Zoom was like a $10 stock back in COVID. Here's a name that you would think with the advent of so many different capabilities to be able to communicate, you would think Zoom would be one of those names that kind of just becomes a value trap, right? I mean, you would think their growth and all that, but they're still able to be relevant and continue to be relevant. And then they've been posting some strong quarters. And I forget when the last time I played Zoom for some calls, but the insider buys, there's a lot of bullish things to it. And I saw the earnings. There was only 4 reports after the close yesterday. I'm like, I didn't want to be in too much into today, so hence the reason I passed on it. But then I was watching this morning and it's like 76. But then you look at some of the analysts and someone, you have, I forget the analysts. There's 2 analysts that are underperform or equal weight with like $60 price targets. And then you have the other side. Piper Sandler was neutral. Some others, Bard has like $110 price target, some of these others. So, and the SPY's pulling here to 644. Come on, close at all-time highs. So, it kind of put me on a fence, and then it's trading up near 78 after the open. This is before Fed Chair Powell comes on. And then I start looking at the chart. I'm like, 200-day moving average is right there. I think if it breaks through that, it's off to the races. So I went and got those calls, and I was going to get weekly strikes. But then I go out and I look at the August 29th, and they were all destroyed. Even the stock was up 9%, and the 85, 86 strikes were down like 40, 50%. I'm like, all right, something doesn't make sense, or maybe it does make sense to me and not the market, right? So that's opportunity. Went and got some calls, and then sure enough, breaks over 80. It's trading in the 80s and slowly creeping up to 81, and the premiums they're like doing nothing. So it's very disappointing. But then finally got a surge at about 145. I don't know if someone came out. Usually it's like a CNBC pump when probably Josh Brown or Josh Brown usually follows. Some reason a lot of stocks that I'm in, he'll be on CNBC talking about. He was on what was someone in? Oh, Joby, right? I was in Joby 10, 11, 8, 12, and then he's on CNBC talking about Joby. I can go down the list. There's a lot of them. So I don't know if he did, but one of these guys, so it looked like one of those pumps, afternoon, fast money, noon hour, or whatever. Anyway, so I was able to lock some in for close to 100% covered course. I'll ride the rest until next week. And you start looking over the 200-day moving average. I mean, you can make the case it's going to go to 85 next week. So I'll continue to hold those calls. So that was that. That was Zoom. And then Reddit, right? I've been waiting all week, finally pulled the trigger. Once I saw the market start to spike, got those 230 calls, and then it was 221, 222. And then once it started to creep up, I took some off for over 100% to cover some of the costs. And then it kept going, right? Boom, boom, boom. And then I closed some more out for over 200% for some profits. I held the rest, and then then it reverses course. I mean, nasty. even if you look at the intraday candle here, like the daily candle, it had a hammer candle, hammer reversal potential on Wednesday, and then you have Thursday kind of flat, and then today's the reverse, right? An inverted hammer. Not a good sign there. So I don't know if I'll revisit next week. It's down here 215. Not a good sign. But at least able to take some profits there. So that was Reddit. And then MDB, and MDB, it's always fickle on a Friday. Once the market started to go, that was on the plan too, to get some spec lotto calls. I was trying to get some 220s. They looked expensive and the spreads are wide. Got those 225s, 220, 250s, excuse me. Look great. And then it's been just chopping around ever since. I mean, it's still 18 minutes in a day. Three more bucks here. But actually I would need 4 to make some money. But I mean, it's been a great trade before. It'll be a great trader after. So I'll continue to look for opportunities on that one, especially as it gets closer to expiration. I think earnings are Tuesday next week, so watching that one. So now here on the flip side as well, Serve Robotics. You would think with small caps soaring, it would be up a heck of a lot more than it is today. And I talked about it. If it gets back over 950, I would look to add some more strikes. It was all the way up to 982 at about 3 o'clock. I'll wait for continuation on Monday. No rush on that one. And then some other names here. IIPR finally. I mean, it was over its highs from the other day when I was able to lock some of the calls on the big run for cannabis, and now it's sitting here at 54.72. So my calls are solidly green again, over a double out. It's only a matter of time before POTUS comes out with some more news on this reclassifying marijuana, right? So it's kind of like another calm before the storm, and then you start looking. I think once it breaks 57, it's off to the races. Still love that one. A line all the way up here, it's pretty much a 150. Surprised my 155s for next week aren't a couple bags right now. They're pretty much flat, but riding those free. I was actually looking for some higher strikes similar to Serve Robotics. I'm going to wait for continuation on Monday. I mean, if you look at the candle here today, it's up, what is it, 6%, up $9. So if this gets going, I'm not saying it's going to fill the gap up there at 190, but I think 160, 165, not out of the realm of possibility in the next week or two. And then I wouldn't say last but not least, I'll continue to ramp. It's 16 minutes here to the close. Pool. I can't remember the last time I got contracts on Pool. You look, the spreads are tough. A lot of times when you look, not a lot of volume. And all of a sudden, you would have thought it would have run up when the 13Fs came out and Buffett added 160% more to his position. And this is like the third addition to his pool. Well, he acquired it. So initial purchase, and stock didn't do much after that. I'm like, how is that possible? Then bought again, didn't do too much. And then this past time, it opened green, gapped higher, and reversed and closed red. So here's the thing: their earnings weren't the best back at the end of July, but the stock was only up at 340. Again, sold off. So I don't know. I didn't even look at the short interest, but it's a great story, and it's one of those rate sensitive names because a lot of folks, they don't go out and plop, 20 grand or 50 grand or whatever is on whatever the size of the pool and whatever on a pool, right? They usually go out and finance. So a lot of incremental revenue will come as rates go down. So if that continues to go down, you take a look at one of my top 5 stocks for 2025, Swim, right? That's on a tear. I don't even know what it is. It's in the 8s now. Where is it right now? Is it up big today? I had it on my watch list earlier today. It's up 6%, $8.15. So another name that, like a rate sensitive name, that should bode well into next week. I don't want to hold too much just yet because you just worry that there's something that's going to come out. I mean, all these possible headwinds, right? I mean, who remembers the U.S. debt, the credit rating getting downgraded, right? I mean, that was going to be that was it. Oh my gosh, U.S. treasuries, they're getting destroyed. They're losing their status in the world. People are selling U.S. they're selling U.S. treasuries. Rates going to go up. The U.S. debt is going to be out of control, right? The big beautiful bill is going to destroy us. Trillions of dollars in deficit. These are all headwinds that you need to be aware of, right? I mean, the debt is definitely an issue, right? But it seems like every couple of weeks there's a new headwind for the markets. Gosh, who remembers that Doge was going to kill the jobs market? Oh my, they slashed all these government jobs. Gosh, I remember all the complaints about the Medicare staffing because they were updating the systems. They're destroying Medicare. You don't hear about that stuff anymore. So it just kind of shows the news spin. And I'm not saying those are issues. There continue to be issues. And it's good that when there are issues like that, they get brought to the forefront. But a lot of times people use it to create this fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And then it keeps you out of the market or keeps you out of a trade or keeps you bearish. So Rants for other days, folks. Oh, and Cracker Barrel. So, just went into the red after running. It was up near 57 and change. I'd sit out there and try and look to get some more puts again. And, I was looking back at the 40. Let's see here. I didn't even pull those up before. Yeah, the 4250s are down 30%. So they're substantially lower than my entry yesterday. So that's a good thing. So maybe another name. The premiums come out a little bit. Look to get some 45s. You have the chief marketing officer coming out defending in some kind of article. To me, it's like almost overhyped. And sometimes when you look at a trade and it seems too easy, right? It probably is too easy. So it's a reason not to get it. But at some point I'll visit, maybe ahead of earnings. I don't know if the earnings date's out. I'll have to go check the historicals. I think it's somewhere in mid-September. And that's it. And again, next week you have NVIDIA, Snow, MDB, Baba, Alibaba, and then just a lot of niche names reporting earnings. So earnings season is not over. All right, have a great weekend, folks. I'll be back rock and roll.